Chapter 12 Playing with Fire Part 3. After that, it was time for Willow to practice passing instead of just receiving. This will probably take a bit more practice, so don't worry if it seems frustrating at first. Let's start with some short passes. Short passes apparently consisted of anything less than half the length of the Grudgeby field, which seemed a bit misleading to Willow. Amelia and Scara mostly stayed closer to her though, as they passed the ball between the three of them. It was a bit mismatched exercise, but Scara's and Amelia's expertise was enough to make up for Willow's lack thereof. In the frequent case that she should overshoot or have a throw go slightly wide, they were usually able to intercept it before it was lost. By the end of the allotted 20 minutes, Scara was hunched over, breathing hard after having to make a spectacular leap to catch one of Willow's wide shots, and Willow was shocked to find that she was smiling. The burn on her arms was a satisfying kind that came from a good workout. And throwing the Grudgeby ball around, watching Amelia and Scar perform ever more impressive feats of athleticism to make her passes. It had been fun! She hadn't even thought of Basha the entire time. Okay, Amelia said between gulps from her water bottle. Dang, you're really giving us a workout, Park. One more thing. Okay? Will was starting to feel a little exhausted, but no way she was going to show weakness in front of them. What's next? Long passes, Scara said as she joined Willow, handing her a Grudgeby ball. She made grabby hands towards Amelia's half-drained water bottle. Amelia rolled her eyes, but handed it over regardless. We're not going to have anyone on the receiving end because, frankly, the chances of a new player making a long pass are next to none. This is just to see where you're at, Amelia explained, slipping once more into what Willow was starting to think of as Grudgeby mode. So, I'm passing to no one? Willow said hesitatingly. Yep, Scar chirped. Just toss the sucker as hard as you can that way, she said, pointing to the goalpost at the far end of the Grudgeby field. All right. Willow tested the weight of the Grudgeby ball in her hands, hefting it a few times. During passing practice, she had been trying to get it to Scara or Amelia with limited success. But if all she had to do was throw it as hard as she could. Willow turned on her heel, imitating the wind-up of Amelia's overhand throw. She held the ball up to her shoulder, imagined Basha's dumb, sneering face as she told her friends that Willow probably wouldn't even show up, and whipped the ball with all the repressed frustration that only more than 8 years of bowling could evoke. The Grudgeby ball was reduced to a blur in the sky as it soared up and over the opposing goal with incredible velocity, hanging in the air for several seconds before its arc concluded. It landed with a faintly audible crash somewhere in the woods behind the Grudgeby pitch. Long gone. Gus and his illusions erupted into a ruckus cheering, holding up signs that spelled out Willow in green letters, and Willow pumped her fist in triumph. She couldn't help but break into a huge grin. Holy heck, Scar whispered to Amelia. I'm starting to think the only reason she didn't kick our butts is that she's too nice for that. Scar had only thought to ask Willow to join their team because of her not half-bad performance in their one unofficial Grudgeby match. Scar wasn't sure if impressive or terrifying was more apt. Still, with an arm like that, Willow could be a serious asset to the team. Okay, maybe as hard as you can is a bit much. Hot dang, Scara said. Amelia just whistled, still looking in the direction the ball had disappeared. If you're up for some extracurricular accuracy training, you could be a real force to be reckoned with by the time our next game happens. Willow glowed with pride. She could count that as a win for her personal training regimen. Out of curiosity, she happened to look to the side of the Grudgeby pitch, where Basha was standing. Basha, like Amelia, was still looking in the direction where Willow's Grudgeby ball had disappeared. Unlike Amelia, Basha's jaw had dropped, and she was clearly gaping at the result of Willow's throw. Upon noticing Willow's eyes on her, she shut her mouth so quickly, Willow was surprised she couldn't hear the click from where she stood, and glared indignantly in her direction.
You know you're supposed to keep the ball inside the court, right?
She hollered from across the pitch. Willow rolled her eyes. Basha could yell and bluster all she wanted. Willow had seen the look on her face, and she wasn't gonna forget it anytime soon. How's that for half a witch, Basha? Careful, Captain! I'm starting to feel singled out! Willow called back. In truth, there was no way she'd call off the arrangement for something as minor as Basha being unable to give an honest compliment. But it was fun to make her sweat over the possibility. Besides, you didn't seem too concerned with staying in bounds when you were exploding trees during our last match. Satisfied that she had gotten the last word, Willow turned back to Scara and Amelia. So, is that all for today? She asked. While she wasn't completely exhausted, Willow could definitely say she was looking forward to flopping down on her bed when she got home, preferably after a nice shower. Well, it was gonna be, but after that demonstration, I've gotta see if you can score! Amelia sounded more excited than Willow had ever heard her. She grabbed another rugby ball from a rack and started walking towards the center of the court. Come on! She called over her shoulder, not looking back to see if they were following. Scar looked at Willow and shrugged. Promise you could go home after this. Amelia just gets excited about new recruits, especially ones that look this good. All right, Amelia said impatiently when they joined her in the center of the court. She held the ball out to Willow. I want you to try and score on either one of these goals without moving from the spot. Willow stared skeptically at the distant goal. Sure, she had tossed the last one way farther, but the goal wasn't exactly a huge target. Don't worry, I won't let Mel make you keep trying, Scara said with a conspiratorial wink. Hit or miss, we all get to go home after this. Hey, I wasn't gonna do that, Amelia said, pouting. I just want to see what she's got. Willow sized up the goal. She didn't love her chances of making the shot just by throwing it. But who said that's what she had to do? Willow held a finger up in the air and called on the elemental force she knew like the back of her hand. She spun a neat circle, forming a glowing green loop around her that flashed as she completed it. Then threw the ball straight up into the air as hard as she could. As she threw the ball, a massive vine erupted from the ground just behind Willow, growing so fast she could feel a rush of wind on the back of her neck. It moved in perfect accordance to her will, rearing back and smacking the rugby ball just at the peak of its arc. The ball was sent rocketing right through the aperture of the away team goal. A perfect score! Holy heck! Park's got moves! Willow grinned. This time it was Scar's turn to whistle, a theatrical two-tone whistle that Willow vaguely recognized from old crystal ball programs. Amelia, however, rubbed the back of her head sheepishly. Sorry, I should have been more specific. I meant without magic. Willow frowned. That hadn't been an easy shot to make, and it felt like Amelia was trying to discount it for no reason. Why wouldn't I be able to use magic? Isn't the use of magic like the whole point of Grudge Me? She asked somewhat defensively. Sorry, that's not what she meant, Scar cut in. Your shot was totally impressive. But not every shot or pass can be some big magical flourish. She tossed a Grudge Me ball from one hand to another as she walked over to the center of the pitch. In the heat of the moment, there might not always be time for that. And then you've got to just trust your hands. With those final words, Scar casually tossed her own rugby ball over her shoulder. It sailed in a perfect arc right through the triangular opening of the goal behind her. Scar didn't even turn around. Willow's jaw dropped. Maybe this was a bad idea. There's no way I'll be that good by next week. When Scar did turn around, though, she took one look at Willow's dumbstruck face and broke into the broadest grin Willow had seen from her all day. Scratch that, probably ever. Oh my Titan, did I actually get it? Amelia nodded at her with a grin. Not bad, Harper. Scar pumped her fist into the air and let out an excited cheer that was completely unlike anything Willow would have expected from her, leading Willow to seriously reassess what she had just witnessed here. You never managed to do that before? She asked Scar once she had calmed down. Scar shook her head. Not never! But it's definitely not a consistent trick. I can hit that like maybe 1 out of every 5 tries? Willow exhaled in relief. Oh, thank Titan! I just saw my life flash before my eyes, trying to calculate how many hours of training it would take me to manage that before next week. Both Amelia and Scara snorted at that. Willow tensed for a moment before she realized with some wonder that they were laughing at her joke, not at her. Don't worry, Amelia said. Willow wasn't sure if the girl was ignoring her momentary freeze, or if she just hadn't noticed. That kind of trick shot is totally unnecessary in an actual Grudgeby game. She just wanted to wow you. Willow looked at them dubiously. Scar wanting to impress her was hard to imagine. Well, in my defense, she hadn't seen me play up close yet, and I can't let Miss Thornval over here think she's the only one with impressive moves. Scar winked. Her voice was void of any maliciousness. Anyways, we did promise we would only make you try once. Plus, I don't know about you, but I could really use a shower. Dibs on the hot water! Oh, and good practice, Willow, Amelia said, wiping sweat from her face with the front of her jersey. To her surprise, Willow could feel a smile spread across her face. Despite the frustrating parts, the training had been a pretty motivating experience overall. Basha had been, well, still Basha, but in a far more manageable form. And Scar and Amelia had been genuinely supportive, even when Willow messed up. It was weird, but she could honestly say today had been fun. The game is next week Friday, right? That should be enough time to get me in shape if we can squeeze some more training in here and there. Yes! Amelia beamed at her. How many more training sessions would you be down for? We could match up our schedules and plans tomorrow. Willow nodded. Sure. See you in class. She lifted her hand to wave, then split up from the group to leave the Grudgeby field in the direction of the bleachers. Willow, that was amazing! You were so good! Gus waved his flags at his best friend excitedly when she walked up to him. It felt amazing too, Willow grinned. Did you see Basha's face when I blasted that ball off the field? I've never seen her that dumbstruck before. Gus laughed. Yeah, you really showed her. He lifted his hand for a high five, and she hit her palm against his. It was strange how they hadn't even known the gesture a couple of months ago, and now it was the most daily common thing in the world. Even with Luce a whole realm away, a part of her remained right here with them. She was acting so strange all training. I was waiting for her to put me down for my lacking skills the entire time, but nothing. When she wasn't dumbstruck, she mostly just ignored me. Not that I'm complaining, it's a nice change of pace. Then, Willow suddenly burst out laughing. Huh? What is it? Gus looked at her in confusion. I think I just figured out why she was acting so weird, Willow snorted. You know that thing 5-year-olds are always told by their parents? If you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all? No way. You think she's so bad at being decent that she has to resort to preschool strategies? Gus asked amazed. That's sad, even for Basha. Seriously, I'm pretty sure that was it, Willow insisted. She just flapped her mouth like a fish before walking away. Basha never walks away without the last word. So, Basha's bad attitude aside, did the other girls treat you okay? Gus looked at Willow in concern. It hadn't looked too bad from the bleachers. Otherwise, he would have interfered. But they'd been too far away for him to hear what they were saying quite a few times. Yeah, Willow almost added, it was actually pretty fun. Before she caught herself. Titan, what was she thinking? Pull yourself together, Willow. she chided herself. These were still the same girls that had picked on her for years. Just because they tossed a ball around for an hour, they weren't suddenly friends. Thorns! She still wasn't even sure she trusted this whole situation. Were a couple of small compliments and a bit of encouragement suddenly enough to win her over? After everything that had happened? Was she really this stupid? Willow took a deep breath and clenched her fists. Scar doesn't know what personal space is, but I guess it could have gone worse. Gus gave her a consoling smile. It's only for a bit, and if it gets too bad, you can always call it off, right? Willow smiled weakly. Huh. Yeah, I guess that makes me feel a bit better. She had to make sure she'd never get this lost in the heat of the moment again. She was playing with open fire, and if she didn't watch out, she'd get terribly burnt. When Scar got outside after showering at school, changed and hair magically dried, Basha was sitting on the bleachers, her gaze fixed on some faraway point in the forest. Scar sighed and sat down next to her. She wondered if her best friend had waited on her to walk home together, or if she'd just been so lost in thought she hadn't noticed how much time had passed. The usual complaint about Scar's showering taking too long was noticeably absent. But they'd barely spoken at all that day, so it really wasn't too surprising. You still give me the silent treatment, or can we actually do a proper review on Willow's skills right now? As much as Basha got on Scar's nerves lately, Scar trusted her judgment when it came to Grudgeby. Basha was the team captain for a reason after all. Well, if you need my advice that much, I guess I might help you, Basha scoffed. Alright, Drama Queen, you're still ticked off, I get it. Scar sighed, but she was determined to not let that irritate her too much. They actually needed to talk about Willow, no matter how salty Basha was over all this. Considering this was her first practice, she was pretty good, wasn't she? Basha rolled her eyes. Oh, yeah, that someone has to get basic catching and passing shown to them is a really promising start, she said sarcastically. Scar stared at her blankly, a little lost for words. She expected Basha to be super harsh. She was that way to everyone, including herself. But this was ridiculous. It wasn't like Basha had always been a perfect player. You weren't born that way. Everyone starts off that way. You did too. Your first Grudgeby training ended with Amity's fastball smacking you straight in the face, remember? Scar nudged Basha gently, but the attempt at lightening the mood instead resulted in one of the most deadly glares Basha had ever shown Scara. Exactly! Amity didn't go easy on me! Basha snapped through gritted teeth. Amity never went easy on anyone before that human girl showed up and turned her brain to mush. Scar sighed. Maybe she should have known better. Amity was still a pretty touchy subject, especially when Basha was in a bad mood. So what if we went a bit easy on her? Scara said, returning to the original topic of conversation before Basha could derail it any further. Our goal is to help her improve as much as we can before next week, not to drive her off the team in the first training. Well, you're not gonna do that by treating her like a toddler! Basha snapped back. Scara let out an exasperated groan. That's not what we were doing. Besides, as much as you're discrediting her right now, you seem pretty impressed a couple of times. You're delusional. What I am is just about done with this conversation, Scara thought, narrowing her eyes as she got up. Can you not be a jerk for 5 seconds and actually talk to me about this? I don't care how much you dislike Willow. Feel free to keep doing that as much as you freaking want. But I need an objective assessment of her skills from you. You know, potential strengths, areas of improvement, the stuff you're supposed to be good at. And if she wasn't getting that in the next 2 minutes, Scar was leaving. There was no use in wasting any more time on this. My objective assessment, Basha snarled, is that she's not going to be good enough to play by next week. Just because that's not what you want to hear doesn't mean it's not how I actually see it. Scar glared at her. With Basha sitting and her standing, she was the taller one for once. Why are you acting like this? If she can shape herself up some more before the game, we actually stand a chance of winning. Aren't you happy you didn't mess up our chances entirely? This was going nowhere. Apparently, Basha was so ticked off over needing Will's help that she wouldn't even do her job as team captain. Speaking of toddlers, you're acting like a child that just got her favorite toy taken away from her. How hard is it to grasp that I think she's not cut out for this? And a week of training isn't enough considering the level she's at right now. It's not like she can beat the other team with push-ups, Basha scoffed. The Epiderm team has been working together for years. They'll eat her alive. Scar crossed her arms. We'll see about that. End of chapter 12.